Kids
Absolutely.
who are reading, who are not reading at grade level, you got a plan, you got resources, you got teachers, you will get them up to a grade level.
Absolutely, 100%.
You're sure? You're sure?
Yep.
Absolutely sure.
Absolutely 100%.
You take a blood oath.
Yes.
Seriously. Don't you change that dial, because if you're watching this show and you stay with it, you're going to find out, how do we get our traditional neighborhood schools? That's interesting. How do we get traditional neighborhood schools to do better than the 25% they're doing now? 25% of African American Hispanic kids in CPS at 4th grade read at grade level. 75% don't. You could take that to the bank and collect interest. How do we improve that? Well, if you want to know about a school that does better than that, if you want to know about a school that feels they're doing a great job in terms of getting kids ready to go to college and complete it within 4 to 6 years, if you want to know all of those things, you'll watch, because Tonya Howell, who's taught in CPS, who's taught at a charter school, NKO, North Kenwood, Oakland campus of UChicago Charter School, who's now going to be the principal. She's now the interim director. That means she's interim principal. She will be the principal this, she already is. We're starting. We're taping this show on September 9th. And so, Tonya Howell, what is it that you do that people need to know that makes a difference in the lives of your kids who are pre-K through 5?
What we do that's different is that we can tell the parent of every 4-year-old who comes into our building that their child is guaranteed a spot in a 4-year college or university if they stay with us all the way through 12th grade. That's right. How
do you guarantee a thing like that?
Well, we have the track record to show it. So we have our high school seniors who leave our high school campus in 12th grade. We have 100% of our students enrolled in a 4-year college or university for the past 5 years.
Say that again?
So for the past 5 years, 100% of our high school graduates from our high school campus are enrolled in a 4-year college.
100%. Mm-hmm. Don't miss a beat with one.
Correct.
Okay. Do you have a sense of, because you are new, you have 5 campuses to the UChicago Charter School. Mm-hmm. You have 2 pre-K through 5, 2 middle schools and high school.
Right.
So you can't say exactly how many kids graduate and complete college within 4 years or 6 years. That's your goal. That's what you're guaranteeing, that they can do that. What can you tell me about the kids who've graduated from your school, NKO, North Kenwood, Oakland?
So we can look at the first 5 cohorts who have left the NKO campus, and 28% of those students have graduated from a 4-year institution at this point.
So 28% of your graduates, they're predominantly African American.
Correct.
Would that be the case?
Yeah.
What about somebody who says, "Oh no, you're just, 28% is good because for a number of years recently, CPS says." You read this in the Tribune all the time, go back 3 or 4 years, they say, 6% of their graduates, 6% of the students at CPS finish, complete high school, go on within 6 years to get a college degree. They're very excited. In the last year, Mike Flannery told us at Fox 32 Chicago, his Sunday morning show, that number has gone up to 12%, but he said, but geez, with respect to African American males, it's about 4%. So my guess is a lot of that 12% would be kids coming out of magnet schools. A lot of it would be more affluent whites who attend CPS, which are maybe 10, 15%. So they're getting like 4%. You're getting predominantly African American males and females, 28% essentially. That would be like 7 times better, 700% better. Forrest Claypool, you're watching, because Forrest, my good buddy, used to be here. We haven't seen him lately, but used to be here when he was a Cook County board member back in the day. So Forrest, are you listening? Because I'd like you to address that at the board meeting, CPS, that's coming up on September 29th. 28% versus 4%. Should Tonya bottle that? Could you bottle that for Forrest Claypool?
We could.
What would you tell Forrest Claypool to get that number up from 4% of African American males completing college to 28%?
Well, first I want to say our goal is 100%. So
100%.
We have a lot of work to do. Yeah.
Really, people say a lot of kids are not cut out to go to college. Do you think they are?
Yeah. we believe that every kid who walks through the doors of any of our campuses is capable of finishing college and being successful beyond college. So we have a lot of work to do. Our goal is 100% graduation from college, and we intend to get there. So, yeah, we have a lot of work to do still.
All right, but you're a good start, 28%.
Yeah.
So what is it that you do that's different? I mean, you've seen CPS. You've been in CPS for 6 years. You're a classroom teacher, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. You were a coach, you were a mentor, you were an instructional person, you were an overseer, you were a teacher, classroom teacher at NKO. She's like 92 years old. No, I don't know how to do myself. Now you're a mom, single mom, 2 kids of your own.
Yep.
And you're struggling like many people. And yeah, well, I mean, you've got a lot to deal with, personal and professional.
Sure.
And so what is it? I mean, okay, Michael Milkey said, we have great adults in the classroom. We got great teachers, we got great principals, we have high expectations. Got anything to add for what Michael Milkey, who's president of the Noble Network of Charter Schools?
I mean, we have an amazing staff of teachers. We have a dedicated staff. But what we do is we really have to think outside of the box. So we assess our kids just like everybody else. But what we do with that data, once we have it, is we find out what exactly does each individual student need to progress, to excel, and to move forward. And then we put systems in place to address those needs. So we have an all hands on deck sort of philosophy, and our teachers work very hard. Our support staff, it's not just the classroom teachers, it's teacher assistants, it's support staff, it's our tech coordinator, it's really like finding time throughout the day to give targeted instruction to kids who need it.
Why can't the traditional neighborhood schools do this? What do you got that they don't have?
You know, I don't know exactly what we have that they don't have, but
you were there. You were
yeah,
CPS.
In a different capacity, though, so I didn't have an eye on all of that.
You weren't a principal, right?
Yeah.
You sense anything that you can think of that's different?
I mean, I think we have flexibility in finding people to put in place to support kids. I think we do have flexibility in how we can spend our money. So we, you know, like I said, we have to really think outside of the box. And when we figure out a solution, we need to jump on it because we can't wait until the next school year to bring in new software or hire a new person.
So when did you start school this year, your academic year?
This is our 4th week of school. So we started, August 17th was our first day.
You had a 3-week jump on the CPS schools?
Yeah.
Does that matter?
I think it's huge. Yeah.
As
a school, we have about, I would say, the mid 80% of our families are free or reduced lunch, qualify for free or reduced lunch.
So that means like a 20,000, 30,000 family income, something like that?
It's possible.
Possible. Whatever the free lunch is, whatever it's required for them to get a free lunch.
It's possible.
Predominantly African American?
Yeah, about 98%. So what we do is we support the whole child, and that may sound cliche, but we really think about what does each child need academically, socially, emotionally. What do the families need? And then we have supports in place to address that. So, you know, if we know that a student is going through something at home, our social worker, who's a full-time social worker at school, you know, meets with the student, finds out what's going on, puts a system in place to support. If we notice a kid falling behind in reading, we right away start with interventions with our intervention specialist. So we really think about the whole child. We're not only focused on academics. We support kids socially, emotionally.
Do you do more checks during the year to find out if kids are keeping up? Do you think you do more than traditional neighborhood school?
I know we keep a pulse on it constantly.
Like every day, every week?
We look at data as a staff once a week. We have professional learning time once a week.
And how do you know what kind of data do you look at?
So it varies. You know, we go through cycles. Right now we're looking at our math data. We gave a math assessment in the beginning of the year, so we're focusing in on that. Our next round is actually going to be looking at something called executive functioning, which is basically how kids learn. So giving kids really specific strategies about, you know, how to process new information, how to cut out distractions so that you can really take in that new information. So we're looking at data in our classroom for executive functioning. Our next cycle will be on literacy, so we're...
Are these kids, are you testing them too much? Because Wendy Cadden said one of the problems with traditional neighborhood schools, they're forced to do a lot of standardized tests, constantly testing, wasting time. Do you do a lot of tests? And if not, how do you find out if kids are doing well in math and reading? Do you have to test them?
So we don't do more testing than other schools.
You don't do more?
We don't do more, but I think kids are over-tested. I mean, I think that is true, but that's not unique.
Yeah.
I just all around.
You would do less testing if you had your druthers.
Yeah, I would try to find a test that you can, that really fits, what you're looking for, so you don't have to use multiple assessments. But we use classroom assessments, student work, observations of teachers, in addition to the standardized tests that you're talking about. So we have multiple data sources, and so we're not over-assessing to get this information. It's kind of just like paying attention to your kids, being present in the classroom, making those observations, looking at student work, student writing, classwork, homework, all of that.
Do your kids have grit? Is that one of your slogans?
Grit, absolutely.
Grit.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So our kids know that they have lots of obstacles to overcome. So they can persevere. They can buckle down and get the work done. They understand the value of hard work because we really talk to our kids about overcoming challenges. Don't let challenges get in your way. And so that grit is that, every rip I have to be excellent.
So maybe a kid who's in pre-K doesn't have a good feel for grit, but by the time these kids have gotten to 5th grade, they know the word grit.
They know it.
They would tell me kind of what you told me if I said what's
absolutely.
Grit. What else is your motto? Scholarship, excellence, grit, anything else?
Leadership.
Leadership?
Yeah. So we promote leadership, critical thinking. One thing that I think makes us different from other schools just in general is we really want our kids to be critical thinkers and to think for themselves, to be able to question, challenge. We don't want them to just follow the rules just because the teacher said so, or do this assignment this way just because you were asked to do it, but to question, ask why, find out, how does this add value? What is this doing for me? How is this going to help me down the road? So kids are really...
they can understand that at 5th grade?
They can, yep.
Really? Like,
yes.
How does it help them? What do you tell them? If a 3rd grader comes to you and says, I don't get it, why am I doing this? Why is it important? What do you tell that 3rd grader?
The response is, when you get to college, X, Y, Z. So when you get to college, this is going to help you in this way. We talk to our 4- and 5-year-olds in pre-K about going to college and how what they're doing now as 4-year-olds is going to help them in college. It's not about if you go to college, it's about when you go to college.
When do you have that conversation? A little different from what people say about that conversation. But when's the first time you think most teachers have a bit of a conversation about the word college to their kids? Pre-K, kindergarten?
You mean most
grade?
parents?
No.
Or in our school?
In your school. When do you have...
From the first day of school. From the first day of school.
Pre-kindergarten, you would say to a 4-year-old kid, you're going to go to college?
When you go to college.
When you go to college. ...
Absolutely.
You're not too young at 4 years old to hear that.
Absolutely. I have a son who's 7, and he would say to me things like, when I get to college, can I, and it would be
He'll
things
say that
like,
at 7.
He's been saying that forever. When I go to college, do I get to sit in the front seat of the car? Yes, you get to do that. Okay.
But that's your son. You've got
and
a
so,
daughter. Does she
but
say
now
the same thing?
But now I run a school, so I get to tell my teachers, these are conversations that you absolutely have to have starting in pre-K.
Starting in pre-K.
Yep, and they happen. Yes.
Okay, so you get them high expectations, get them, kids, look, I think what some people would say, WBZ did some series of articles about magnet schools, charter schools, traditional neighborhood schools. Linda Lutton, I think it is, 2014. Folks can find that, you Google it. She says, there's this big sort going on. We get the top kids going to high-performing schools. We get the kids who do less well on tests going to low-performing schools. And, they brought on somebody from the University of Chicago, some name, can't remember. She said, do we want that kind of society? So I ask you, do you want that kind of society? Because you're getting some kids to do well, but what about the other kids that you don't address, who don't go into your school? You feel bad about that?
I wish we could build, 20 NKO campuses and bring in more kids. Our space is limited. We have 356 seats, and we fill them.
Because somebody said to you, the maximum you can do at UChicago Charter School would be 356.
Because of the space in our building. If we had more seats, I would fill them, absolutely.
Well, how do you get more seats?
Build a new building.
And how do you get a new building?
Fundraise.
You have to go out and get a donor, because
Yeah, absolutely.
let's talk money for a minute. Because, you know, people say you're taking money away from the traditional neighborhood schools. Wendy Catton wants a moratorium. No more.
Mm-hmm.
You say you want more? She says no more, because you'll take more kids and that'll be more money. And how can the traditional neighborhood schools compete? What do you say to Wendy?
I mean, the reality is the money that we get for our students goes directly to educating the students. So it's not money that's coming away from schools, it's money that's going into students' education.
So students, Rahm Emanuel says this now at CPS, when schools get kids and other schools lose kids, the money follows the kids. So if kids go from one traditional neighborhood school to another, forget charters for a moment, that traditional neighborhood school that's growing in kids will get more money, and the one that's falling is getting less. Does that sound fair to you?
Well, there's an expense to educating children, so the reality is you use that money for that child.
You got more
it's
kids,
not just, you need it. Yeah, you absolutely need it. The more kids you have, the more
if you
money.
take these kids in for your approach, which you think succeeds and does well at NKO
Which
campus,
I know succeeds and does
you
well.
know
Yeah,
it does
absolutely.
well. You need the money to do that,
Right.
but you get money only to operate the school. You don't get money to build the campus. You got to find that somewhere else, right?
Correct.
In CPS, they'll build you a traditional neighborhood school, and you guys and ladies got to find it somewhere else, right? Just the difference between charter schools that are public and traditional neighborhood schools.
Yeah,
Now, if you take your total budget and you take the number of kids, I came up with something like $11,000.
Okay, so that's maybe what I meant.
11,000.
Yeah, gotcha.
You have 356 kids,
Right.
right? And I forget what it is, but you take the total budget, divide one into the other, and you get 11,000
There you go.
per year.
Right, absolutely.
It doesn't include capital costs, though, right? Does your budget include some cost for fixing the building and maintaining the building and so forth? It does include those things, I think, right?
Right, so I mean, we have to spend money on facilities, maintenance, and all
okay.
that.
Without
Yeah.
getting into the weeds, CPS, as we've said before, their total budget by the number of kids is 14,400.
There you go.
So they're getting a little bit more.
Mhm.
So somehow with less, you're giving them more. Again, it comes back, are you paying teachers as much?
We pay teachers less,
Pay teachers
so
less.
our teachers do get paid less than CPS.
So they would just like walk out and say, we're not doing this for less, right? Or they stay?
They are the
You
most
got a good
dedicated.
retention rate?
They're the most dedicated people I've met. So
Why? Well, how do you keep them?
we take
You're the
care of our
principal.
staff. One of the things I think that keeps people in our school is that they see what they're doing is working. So when you do something every day, they come to work every day and they work really hard. When they actually see the fruits of their labor, they see kids reading and writing and loving what they're doing in the classroom. Of course, that's motivation to come back year after year. So even though we can't pay them what they would get paid at CPS, they are part of something bigger, and they feel that.
So you got 3/4 of your middle school students who come from your elementary schools. So your kids stay with you, not just the
Correct.
teachers with you, stay with you.
Yep.
2/3 of your high school kids come from the middle schools.
There you go, yep.
So you're bringing in other kids, but you've got this sort of core of kids that have been with you from the beginning.
Right.
Families, like siblings tend to come if there
Right.
have been siblings
Right.
there.
Cousins and right.
How did you find out about NKO? Because you were teaching were you teaching in CPS at the
I was
time?
teaching in CPS. I was working at a school on the south side, and I was hosting interns in my classroom from the Urban Teacher Education Program through University of Chicago. Our meetings were at NKO. So I used to have to go there regularly once a month or something like that, and I fell in love with just the climate and the feel of the school. NKO, when you walk in the doors, and you've been there, so you know it's warm, it's welcoming. I
And
fell
that's
in love
important.
with that.
That soft and tangible stuff is important.
Absolutely.
You think the kids feel that?
The kids know it and they feel it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's intentional. So our walls are painted orange, yellow, green, purple, and there is artwork all over the building that the kids have done themselves. There's ownership in that. So kids, when they walk through our hallways, they have a sense of pride in their space. You know, we focus on what we call our beautiful buildings walkthrough, and we make sure that the space is beautiful because the kids deserve a beautiful space. And when they're coming to a school that they can feel proud of, they work that much harder. Our staff works much harder, our students work harder because they enjoy being at school.
Where are they? Give people context. Where is your school relative to the rest of Chicago?
So our school's on the south side. It's in it's near Hyde Park. It's on 46th and Greenwood.
46th and Greenwood.
Yep.
So it's a little bit north of Hyde Park.
There you go. Yep.
Is a safe place.
It's a safe place.
I can walk down there because I have walked down there in the morning, and I'm not going to get shot.
You're not going to get shot.
I'm not going to get shot.
I mean, you could get shot anywhere in the city of Chicago.
But odds are it's pretty safe.
I feel safe when I go to school.
You think the kids feel safe at school?
I think they feel safe. I mean, there are issues anywhere, but we have issues in our community. We've had issues, but we make sure our kids feel safe.
So, what are the 5 campuses?
So we have the NKO campus, it's an elementary, the Donahue campus, which is an elementary. We have our
Those are both pre-K through 5.
Yeah. Carter G. Woodson is a middle school, 6 through 8.
And where is Donahue?
Donahue is on 37th and Cottage,
okay.
and CGW, our middle school,
so it's
is close
about
by.
a mile away from where you are. So
Yeah,
it's pretty close. Group. And CJ Woodson.
It's close to
35th and Cottage around there. So south side.
Yeah.
Woodlawn.
Woodlawn is on 66th and Woodlawn.
So a little bit south of where you are, maybe a few miles.
Yeah.
You are south side.
Yeah.
Is that important? What if you started teaching tomorrow at the west side? Any difference between west side and south side?
I think our south side culture is prevalent in our schools and with our families. Most of our families come from the south side. So that connection with our community is huge. So I think being on the south side is really important for us because our families come from the south side. The community is strong, and so the students have that pride in their school, their community, their family.
But it can't happen if the kids can't get into the school. Wendy Catton sat here and she said, Jeff, there are barriers to access. You can talk about the lottery, she said, because if you're at a charter school and you have more kids who want to get in than there are seats, they can't use a test, they can't use grades. That's not allowed. They hold a lottery. Mm-hmm. She said there are barriers to access to charter schools. What do you think? Does she have a point?
What barriers would she say?
Well, she said there are fines. If you misbehave at certain charter schools, you're going to have a fine, and that's a big deal, and a parent can't afford it, they don't even apply. She said you have to navigate that process, you have to fill out an application. Well, up to a year ago for the Noble Network, they required you to attend an information session as a parent in order for you to get an application. CPS said, no, you can't do that. It's too much. Well, tell me, what do you know about applying to a magnet school, which is in CPS, as opposed to applying? Does it make sense? Milky said, we want the parents to know where the school is. They're going to have to get them here 200 days in a row. Yeah. We want them to be involved. He said, they may knock out 5 applications. If they actually have to go to an information session, they can apply to 5 different charter schools. But he says, we spend a lot of time on this. We want them to spend a little time. Maybe this charter school is not right for them. Who's right on that? I mean, you got Wendy Catton saying barriers to access. You got Milky saying what he said.
In terms of barriers to access, I don't know what other charters do, but we don't have fines for misbehaviors or no uniform.
What about the application?
Like that.
Is that difficult for a parent to? Is it that difficult? There's an application for your school, right?
Right.
You filled out applications for schools.
Right.
Harder for CPS magnet, harder for charter. Which is harder?
So I've done both personally. I filled out the application for the NKO campus as a mom because my children both attended NKO. And I've also applied with CPS for the selective enrollment. And just personally, I can say that it was much easier to apply for NKO. I mean, the amount of information that you need.
So you tell Wendy that. She might want to look at that difference.
I found it much easier to apply for the charter. But, everyone's experience is not mine.
You've got one kid at NKO, which is a charter school. You've got a daughter at traditional neighborhood school?
Yeah, my kids have been at NKO for their entire career until this year.
Yeah.
Because.
Okay, so there's those barriers to access. You said you don't really think that's a major issue.
I don't think that's a major issue for charters, no.
Yeah, and and Linda Lutton says we're sorting kids by skill, we're sorting skills by, the kids come in, they give a test, she said, called Explore a year ago, everybody has to take it. At the magnet schools and at the charter schools, she says they're outperforming on the kids who go there outperform from the get-go. So she says you're getting better kids. Does she have a point, Miss Lutton?
I don't know. I can't speak to that. I know when our students who come to us at NKO, we do assess when they come in to find out basically their reading ability. So what reading level are they entering our school at? And from there, we just plan instruction. So we don't move them to a different classroom based on level. We're not tracking our kids by
So some are lower, and then you figure that out, and you figure out what to do.
We figure it out early. So the reason we assess is not to track kids or to put them in one group or another. The reason we assess kids as they come in for their reading ability is so that we can plan for instruction right away. We don't want to waste any time. So we know on day one, we've already mapped out our reading groups within a classroom. We know how to target our instruction before the kids even enter.
So this is what you mean by individualized, not one size fits all, holistic approach.
Right.
Like all hands on deck. Here's a kid who might require more work. Let's figure out what to do and do it.
Yeah.
We don't say to that kid, okay, go somewhere else. We don't want you ruining our test scores.
Right. We're not doing that. We're not sending kids away. Absolutely not.
So you're giving kids opportunity.
Yeah.
So what, it's a little bit distraction, but it's not completely. So some people say we should have school vouchers. If we spend $14,400 per kid per year in kids on average in CPS, give every parent $14,400 and say, if you want to stay at your current traditional neighborhood school, put it in the backpack. Backpack stays there, the kid stays there, the cash stays there, no change. But if you and your kid want to apply to a magnet school and you get in, out goes the kid, out goes the backpack, out goes the cash to the magnet school. If you want to apply to another neighborhood school, traditional neighborhoods, out goes the kid, out goes the backpack, out goes the cash. If you want to apply to a charter school, out goes the kid, out goes the backpack. If you want to apply to a private school, get it? Money truly follows the kid. Would you sign up for that program?
I think that's almost what's happening, except for the private school. I mean, that's basically what's happening within the Chicago public school system.
Except you have to get authority from CPS to expand your school. You can't just wake up and say, we got a building, we want to take in more kids.
Right, so that would
be the difference. You got to do that, but then you got to go to the CPS board and say, give us authority.
That would be different. That is the difference. I mean, we don't have the ability to expand right now.
Sarah Karp says you folks have 30,000 extra seats that you're not using, meaning charter schools, 63,000 kids, and she says, Tonya, don't you realize you and your colleagues at charter schools, you got these 30,000 extra seats. Do you have extra seats that you could just put kids in if you want?
I don't have any extra seats.
You don't have
I wish I did.
356, right?
I have 356 and they're all filled. I wish I had extra seats because I would
love
love
to
bring them.
come on the show and go over to Tonya. You have to go on the show and tell her where those empty seats are.
If I could bring in another 356, I would still be able to say to those kids, when you enter our school at NKO and you stay with us all the way through high school, you're guaranteed a spot in a four-year college or university. If I could do that across the city, I would.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
We could have 393,000, I think, there are students in CPS. All 393,000, you think it's possible?
For them to enroll in a college after high school?
And
absolutely.
Complete college?
Absolutely.
You think you can do that? You're not giving up on any of them?
Not a single one.
The kids who are not reading at grade level, you got a plan, you got resources, you got teachers, you will get them up to grade level.
Absolutely, 100%.
You're sure? You're sure?
Yep.
Absolutely sure?
Absolutely 100%.
You take a blood oath?
Yes.
Seriously? Okay. Because you wouldn't fool me. You've never lied to me before.
I haven't lied to you before, no.
Yeah, okay.
What I'm telling you right now is that if we can truly get our kids to understand their potential and encourage them to ask questions, to have a thirst for knowledge and learning, they can do anything. They can change the world. You know, the opportunities
Is competition
are endless.
good?
Competition is great.
Great. You tell your kids, go out there and compete.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can do it.
Yeah.
They can run 100 yards. They can go to college. They can pass tests. They can write books. Okay, so that's Tonya Howell. We know the whole story. You know about the UChicago Charter School and its 5 campuses. You know about Tonya Howell, and you know about NKO. And where do they go to find out more about the UChicago Charter School campus?
They can go to uchicago.charter.org.
And where do they go? They can find out from there more about NKO.
There's a link on the site, yep.
So folks, just remember, you come back next week and every week to Public Affairs.